for this tip, I just need you to kind of hang with me and just trust this process. Good morning. Welcome to my channel where we break down some challenges we face in the classroom, especially when it comes to technology. If you clicked on this video, then you're probably considering using templates to guide your students during digital activities. All of my examples will be for social studies, but remember, you can use these strategies for any content. As you know, digital activities are becoming more and more mainstream, and maybe you're really loving this digital activities idea, or maybe you're still not comfortable yet. Either way, today I'm going to share some advice with you on how to set up your digital activities so you get the quality of work that you need back from your students. I will have linked in the description below a step-by-step guide so you can print that out after you watch the video. No need to take notes. There will also be a link to sample templates to get you started. Also, in the description there are timestamps, so if you're looking for something in particular, you can jump right to it. Now let's get started. Using templates with my students was simply a game changer for me. Even though I loved using technology in the classroom, I avoided the create a presentation type of assignment like the plague. It seemed like every time we did this type of assignment, my students would spend 3 or 4 days, maybe even a week. They'd have all kinds of crazy images. They would have all kinds of backgrounds and crazy colors with their fonts, but their content was really lacking, and they spent all of this time and didn't really turn in anything of quality. So then I had the idea one day to give them a template. So this is not just for differentiating or for scaffolded learning. You can give templates just in general. So in Google Classroom, I can give a pre-made template in Google Slides and assign it in a way that each student gets their own copy to edit. There's so many advantages of using a template. First, it gives structure to the assignment. Just like with anything else, structure helps. You are able to set very clear expectations on each and every slide right where they're looking, as opposed to on a paper or a separate checklist. They have their expectations and what they need to do directly in where they are working. Second, it allows you to truly differentiate. You can send templates to specific students, so if you need to differentiate and scaffold that learning, you can do that in a way that's very discreet and easy for you to keep up with. Also, templates allow you to take advantage of using visual clues, which will help students know where to place images and text on the same slide in a way that makes sense to a viewer. So personally, I use templates with 7th graders. Even my 7th graders, I know that there's a misconception somewhere that, like the older kids, the middle schoolers, are better at this, and truly they're not. They still, unless they've been taught, they really don't know what a presentation should look like. They don't know what they should title their slides. They don't know what makes sense to have their images and their text together. Like, they don't really know how to do that. And I realized that I never took the time to teach them how to do it. I just expected them to know how to do it, and then was frustrated when they didn't perform. So again, I used these with 7th graders, but I spent time as an instructional technology specialist, and I've seen this work for grades ranging from 2nd all the way up through 8th and 9th grade. And I'm sure it works for high school. I just didn't have the opportunity to work with those teachers. So here's my first tip for you. Have clear objectives in mind when you're creating the assignment, and have clear expectations. Are your students exploring? Are they applying their knowledge? Or are they being assessed? Once you've determined your objective, be sure to design your template in a way that best fits your objective. This will keep you avoiding assigning a template just so that you can say you're using technology. This is one step that kind of surprised me when I found that teachers were really having a hard time. There were lots of complaints from teachers that the students, they would do all these assignments on technology, and then when the assessment came, they didn't show mastery of the standards. So then the teachers were like, well, if we had done it my old way, we would have been successful. We would have mastered the content. However, when I look back at what they were assigning, their assignments were not as rigorous as their assessment. So you've got to make sure when you're creating your assignment, the digital assignment or a printable assignment, it's got to have those objectives that you're looking for and your expectations have to be there. So just make sure that you know when you're creating the assignment, are your students exploring, are they applying their knowledge, or are they being assessed? And that will help you start to implement your content. Let's talk about expectations. When you're creating your template, think about expectations and make those clear on every single slide, even for your older kids. For my students, my 7th graders, I typically included the title of the slide and the directions. So if you're starting this in the beginning of the year, you could wean them off of this if you're using them consistently. Personally, when I was still in the classroom, we did not have consistent access to technology. So I was not able to do this on as regular of a basis as I would have liked to. So I would suggest, if you can, start by really, really heavily implementing those expectations and then try to wean them off of it so they can show that they can do this on their own and they can practice on their own. So I'm not saying that you have to script everything for them all the time, but it really needs to be heavily scripted when they first start. So I typically included the title of the slide and the directions on every single slide. Here's a quotable moment. Students should not have questions about what to do. They should only have questions on how to do it. That's how clear I want you to make your expectations when you're creating these assignments, or really any assignment in general. Let me repeat that. Students should not have questions about what to do. They should only have questions about how to do it. So when a student raises their hand and they're asking you a question, it should be about how to accomplish what you're asking them to do. Now, obviously there's those kiddos who don't read the directions. That is what it is. But take note about what your kids are asking, and if there's some confusion, the next time you make that template, work around it. Make sure that you have solved that problem. Tip number 2. Give a thorough overview and model. You'll want to make sure that you give a thorough overview of the assignment and your expectations before you even allow your students to log into their devices. Now, we all know once they have their computers open, their focus is not on us. So Chromebooks are really easy. They're really quick to log in. So have them close their screen and look at your modeling. So especially when you are first trying out these template activities, go ahead and pull it up on the screen and show them exactly what they're going to be doing. So for example, show them how to move the red text lower. So if you have your directions in red text, make sure they know how to lower that text so they have room to type instead of just deleting it. I cannot even tell you how many times I had students say, I don't know what to do, I deleted my directions. Okay, well, when you're giving this overview with them, have them respond to you. So make it interactive. Okay guys, don't delete the directions till after you complete the assignment. Here's how you move it. Okay guys, do we delete their directions? No, we don't delete the directions. We move our text down so we have room. Tip number 3, encourage students to use a keyboard shortcut. This can be a little bit debatable. I feel like I get some resistance to this for my teachers who are not really comfortable with technology, but I want to encourage you, if that's you who's not comfortable with technology, to really try to do this and to take this challenge yourself. Your kids, most of them are comfortable with technology. So for this tip, I just need you to kind of hang with me and just trust this process. Every time your students work on a digital assignment, every single time, I want you to challenge them, and maybe yourself, to use some keyboard shortcuts. This will help increase their efficiency. The key to this, though, is to ask them to use a specific shortcut for each assignment. So what I'm not saying is to have a poster of keyboard shortcuts and that be the end of it. So what I want you to do is think about what your students are having to do, what they're having to manipulate, what they're having to do in the tasks in their assignment. Think of a keyboard shortcut that might make life a little bit easier for them. This will help them practice this new keyboard shortcut in a relevant setting. Here's what I mean. For example, the shortcut for copy and paste will probably be more relevant than the shortcut for print. If the assignment doesn't require printing, don't ask them to use the keyboard shortcut for print. So that's why just having a generic poster on the wall isn't going to be as effective. So I want you to think about challenging them to one or maybe two, like the copy and paste. I would use those together. I kind of count those as one. But challenge your students to use at least one or two, if it makes sense, of those per assignment. Then you can have a running list in your classroom so you can add new shortcuts throughout the year. When you're giving your overview of the assignment, like from tip 2, go ahead and share that shortcut challenge with them and demonstrate how it works. I really think that these keyboard shortcuts are going to help their efficiency, which is going to help you because then they're going to be working faster and they're not going to, mess up as much stuff. Tip number 4. This is probably one of my favorites. Are you ready? Set a timer for decorating. From my experience, it will take 7th graders and probably other grade levels too, absolutely forever to decide on their backgrounds, on their colors, their fonts, their themes, all of the things. We call this decorating in my classroom, decorating their slides. To keep them on track, I would set a timer in the very beginning. It's important to do this in the beginning because in Google Slides and probably PowerPoint too, when you change the theme, it often changes the formatting of all of the things. So that means that your text and your images and your titles are going to move around when you change the theme. So it's very important for everyone's frustration level to just choose your theme in the beginning and don't change it again. So do this in the beginning, set a timer. When the timer runs out, you should be working on the content of your assignment. No more decorating after the timer goes off, unless you get approval by me. Then you can decorate. But you should not be decorating unless the timer is still on or you've had personal permission. For my 7th graders, I would give them between 5 and 10 minutes depending on the group of students, but use your judgment. You can make adjustments for the next time. Now, they don't need to spend the entire 5 to 10 minutes decorating. They can move on when they're ready, but they have that allotted time, and a lot of times like that's what they want to do first, so then they'll feel better and you gave them the time to do that. If you're not sure about how much time to give them, the first few times that you do it, I would recommend doing like a secret timer. My 8th graders at one point caught on to this. They would say like, is this Miss Miller's time or is it like real time that we're talking about here? So my secret timer was a timer that just wasn't displayed. So I would say, okay guys, you've got 5 minutes to do this. Well, if 2.5 minutes had passed and they're all like about to get in trouble because they're so bored, then we would just move on. Okay, time's up. It's been 5 minutes. So if you're not sure, set a secret timer and just see how it goes. And if they're all done a few minutes early, then just pretend like the time is up and just move on. Tip number 5. This one's really important too. Monitor and take note of students who struggle to make decisions. So just like any other assignment, some students will need help moving forward. So I noticed that some of my students would get fixated on choosing that perfect picture for their presentation. This is something you need to look out for. Take note and be patient with them. Sometimes having too many options can be incredibly overwhelming. They have the entire World Wide Web options of images, and sometimes they just have a hard time picking. So with this, be on the lookout. Take notes of your students who are struggling. It may not be images, it may be with the content itself. It may be an open-ended prompt that they're really having a hard time with. Monitor, you see that this kid is struggling, you take note on what they're struggling with. After class, go into their assignment and leave them personal feedback. So for my example of the student who is really having a hard time finding the absolute perfect picture for what they're trying to convey in their slide, go into their assignment and you choose 3 images and drop them into their slide and just tell them to pick one. So you take your time, choose stuff that you think that they will approve of, and insert those 3 images in there and have directions for them to just pick one of the 3. So the next day when they come in there, they already have the 3, they can move on quickly because you've told them to just choose one and they'll just delete the other two and they have to just move on with life. And then if they finish early, they can go back and change it. Tell them that if they are not happy. If you finish early, you can go back and change it, but like you can't spend 3 days on this one image. For your example of your kid who's really struggling with an open-ended prompt, when you're in their assignment after class, go ahead and just give them some multiple choices or a sentence frame, sentence starter to help them move along. So just really important though, if this is before you are grading it, your feedback needs to still lead them to the answer and give them a little bit of choice. So kind of like giving them hints or moving them forward. You don't want to be evaluative yet because they're not being assessed yet. So just keep in mind that when you're leaving this feedback that you are still very encouraging and very patient and not evaluative yet because they're not there yet. Okay, tip number 6, be consistent. Consistency always makes things easier. So I know that not every single assignment will be the same, so the templates should not be the same either. However, being consistent with certain things will make life easier. For example, keep all the text that should be deleted the same color for every single template. I chose red. You could choose whatever color you want. I chose red. So in every template that we used, if the student saw red text, they hopefully knew that that text needs to be deleted before they turned it in. So when they turn in their assignment, I should not see any red text because you should have deleted that. That was on every single template, no matter what the template looked like. Also, my feedback was always in the same font and color. So mine, I just chose purple text. So if a student saw purple text in the margins, then that probably indicated a note from me that also needed to be deleted once they fixed it. Templates are great for so many reasons, and they can be used in all subjects. So remember, in the description below, I have links to some sample templates. Those links are also in the step-by-step guide. So be sure to explore those to get inspiration, or you can make a copy of them and use them with your students. Now, I want to hear from you. What ideas or tips for templates do you have? Leave that in the comments below or post them on Instagram and you can tag me at Sarah Miller Tech. I would love to hear from you. See you next time.